What is up, everyone? Today's episode is going to be nothing short of an absolute milestone, and I cannot wait to get stuck in. So today we're going to be checking out, and I've got it right here, the Apple Silicon M1 Mac Mini. It arrived yesterday and it's been sitting here patiently waiting on my desk, and I cannot wait to dig in. But before we rip into the box and get the Mac Mini fired up, we've got to do a little bit of talking first. So first thing to get out the way, this is the very first thing. If you've stumbled across this video and you want a quick unboxing, quick first impressions, you know, flashy, all loads of edit kind of review, you're not going to get it here. This is going to be a pure, massively insane ramble fest of all IMNC goodness. It's going to be a long one. It might take 2 sittings to get through. I'm not sure what the runtime's going to be. I'm going to do a lot of talking. So if you're into that sort of thing, stick around. We're going to have loads of fun. But if not, feel free to click off and check out any number of the other 8 million videos that are talking about the M1 Mac Mini. The other thing is, it is raining today and I can hear lots of rain noise, so hopefully it doesn't distract you too much on the video if you can hear it. I was going to hold off because it really is loud, but I honestly can't. I really cannot hold off any longer. We have got to do this today. So without further ado, let's do it. Let's begin. So rolling back to July, I discussed the Apple Silicon transition, the announcement of the Apple Silicon transition, and I expressed a lot of excitement in that video. None of that excitement has gone away. In fact, it's grown. So just to recap a little bit, my main excitement obviously is the transition and the new capabilities that these new machines will receive. It's very exciting to have a Mac that is truly unique once again, doesn't rely on x86, it is its own thing. It's tremendously exciting. But something else that's kind of even more exciting for me is the prospect of living through this sort of transition that I just missed out on last time. So I didn't get my first Mac until 2007, and it was an Intel machine. So I just missed that PowerPC to Intel transition. And as you guys know, as a massive PowerPC fan, I do get fascinated by the history of that transition and how everything worked over that sort of 2-3 year kind of period. Now, to live through one, we get to see it firsthand, and this is the first generation of the new machines. So I had to get one. I just had to. Now, a load of people were baffled when I announced on Twitter. Well, I didn't do an official announcement. It was sort of a quiet-ish announcement because I had a big question that I posted on Twitter when these things first came out, because I was curious about something that we'll talk about a little bit later on and also do some testing on as well. But a couple of people were like, oh, I'm going to wait until the 2nd or 3rd generation of Apple Silicon Macs. You know, these are just the entry-level machines. I'm not going to delve in this early. This is brand new technology. Let's let it mature a little bit. Yeah, that's all the sensible side. But what about just the truly exciting, awesome prospect of being right there at the beginning, experiencing the transition from the word go? That, to me, is worth it. And I would have picked one up even if all of these awesome performance results weren't coming in. But it just so happens that you get to be an early adopter, enjoying the birth of this kind of new transition, and at the same time you're getting a kick-ass machine. Based on everything that we've seen, this guy is blazingly quick. It is going to smoke probably every computer in this room that I've got put together. It is leaps and bounds ahead of anything that I own. Remember, unlike the majority of people covering this thing on video, I'm not coming from a 2020 iMac or a 2018 iMac, MacBook Pro, whatever. I'm coming from a late, it's not even up there, it's down in my bag, a late 2013 MacBook Pro. So that's my upgrade. I'm gonna see a huge boost in speed. But anyway, let's leave that for a second. So before I completely pass out with excitement, I'm gonna cut right here. I'm gonna cut to a sequence where I filmed the ordering process. I just had to capture that excitement as well, because ordering a brand new Mac for me was a brand new experience. I don't want to repeat myself too much, and I can't remember exactly what I said in those clips, so I'm just going to roll those clips. Let's check them out. And that was kind of like the experience that night of ordering the machine. That's when I made the decision, yes, let's go, let's do it. So let's take a look at excited Tom buying his M1 Mac Mini. So this evening I am going to order my M1 Mac Mini, and I'm really excited about it. So what makes this so special? Firstly, it's the transition from Intel to M1, so a crazy exciting time to be an Apple fan, a Mac fan, a Mac user, because things are looking really good for the future of the Mac right now. Secondly, I've never, ever bought a brand new Apple desktop computer before. They've always been used. So this is the first time I'll be buying a brand new Mac. Now I did buy a 2014 Mac Mini for work, but that was from Curry's PC World, so it doesn't count, and it wasn't even mine, and it was a rubbish machine anyway, so there's that. And even my MacBook Pro that we've got sat here, I purchased this from the Apple Refurbished store. So this is still technically my first ever brand new Mac purchase, and I'm going to share the whole thing with you guys today, because I just need to, I have to. Let's do it, let's order my new Mac. So no fancy screen recording or anything like that. This is just plain and simple, pure, in the moment experience, capturing a lovely memory here. So let's do it, apple.com/UK. Okay, what I love is the Macs are right on the homepage. Usually when they do a big update to a Mac, it's kind of a subtle thing, it's a bit further down the homepage. And you know, we've just had iPhone 12 and stuff, but now the Mac's a centre of attention, which is really cool. Even the Mac Mini gets to say on the homepage. It's before the big iPhone spot, so that's really cool. So let's just click on buy on the Mac Mini, and we will spec this machine out exactly how we would like it. Now if we take a little look at the two options here, the only difference between these two M1 models, this is the Intel one that they're still selling, the only difference between the M1 models here is the storage. So for $699 you get 256 gigs, and for $899 you get 512 gigs. Everything else is exactly the same between these two models. Apple M1 chip with 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU and 16-core neural engine. Now on the MacBook Air you've got to watch out for the lower end model because it's got the 7-core GPU, so it's just like a lower binned chip presumably. So we're going to go for this guy because, as you guys know, I rely heavily on a network setup and multiple servers to store my data, as well as cloud services. I don't store anything locally on the machine, so 256 gig is ample for me. What I do need though is the RAM upgrade, because if this is going to be my machine for a long time, even though 8 gig is doing me just fine in the MacBook Pro right now, and things are a little bit different with the M1 and Apple Silicon, we're going to knock it up to 16 gig because I think it would be rude and silly not to. So if we wanted to, we could get this machine by Saturday if I was to order it at 8 gig, but if I change that to 16 gig, we get that machine delivered between the 10th and the 17th of December. So that's what we're going to go for, folks. 16 gigs of RAM, so let's double check all of the specs here on this machine. So we don't have a trade-in. Memory is 16 gig, storage 256 gig SSD storage. It goes all the way up to 2 terabytes. You can pre-install Final Cut and Logic. I already own both of those, so no need. What's in the box? Mac Mini and a power cable, and that is it. So let's add that to my bag. Now it's asking about some essentials. Apple Care. I'm not going to add Apple Care, even though 99 quid for Apple Care is pretty good, isn't it? I think I paid over 200 for Apple Care on my MacBook Pro when I bought it. I went for Apple Care, but that was because it was a portable machine. For the Mac Mini, I'm not going to go for it. Belkin Ultra high-speed 4K HDMI cable 2 meters, 30 quid, no thank you. Thunderbolt 3 USB-C cable 0.8 meters, 39 quid, no thank you. We don't need any of those things. We don't need any of the keyboard or mice, but we do need the Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 2 adapter. I'm going to need one of those, and that is that's a nasty 49 quid there. We don't need a Magic Keyboard. We'll add that to the bag. As much as I'd love one of these LG displays, we don't need one of those. We don't want Microsoft Office. And what else do we have? USB-C to SD card reader. Does the Mac Mini not have an SD card slot on it? I'm not sure. No, there's no SD card slot on it, is there? But that's okay. We will use a cheaper one than, what's this, 39 quid. We'll find a nicer one than that. That is USB-C though, so that's quite nice, but we're not really going to have an available USB-C port to dedicate to just a card reader with the setup that I have planned anyway. So I think that is everything that we need. We're going to review the bag. Still under £1,000 for the Mac Mini and the adapter that I want. 948 for a brand spanking new Mac. Let's do it, guys. Let's check out right now. Let's do it. Just double checking that I've got all the specifications correct here in the checkout process. Ready to place your order. Let's make sure everything is right. 948, place your order. Look at that, 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 look at that. I'm going to save this screenshot, I think. Let's see Will's reaction to this message. He said, have you done it yet, lol? And I said, no, I decided to go for an iMac last minute and got the baseline 21.5 inch. He said, really? I can't imagine that. And he is correct. I'm going to send him a nice little screenshot now of my order. So there we have it. It is done. No turning back. The Mac Mini is on its way and I am thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. Not a single regret. I can't wait to try out the machine, just have it here. It's going to be gorgeous. So, so gorgeous. I look forward to making the videos for all of you guys. This has definitely been a night to remember. It only took about 5 minutes, but still, I'll remember this night for a very, very long time. First ever Apple Silicon Mac is on its way. So that was very excited and very just kind of flummoxed Tom ordering his Mac Mini. We've got it. A couple of weeks later, we've got it. And it arrived on the 2nd of December. I want to document absolutely everything. It's an entire process that I want to look back on. So 2nd of December, it arrived. Today's the 3rd. Today's the day we're unboxing and setting it up on video. So I tell you what, let's just rip into it. Let's rip into the outer box and see what we've got going here. Because obviously we've got the inner box that we'll do the proper unboxing of in a minute. But I wanted to share, oh no, I thought that was going to be really good. Okay, I wanted to share absolutely everything with you guys on video, including the experience of getting it out of the outer shipping box. Ooh, that was a good noise. So this came all the way from China, and I've been keeping an eye on the tracking, and ooh, there it is. Look at that. It's in there. It's definitely a Mac Mini. Man, that's shiny. It's been quite fun to watch the journey of this guy. I've been checking tracking every single day, as you guys can imagine. Oh, here she is. Here she is. Okay. There's the empty shipping box that I'll obviously keep. Resale and all that. And we'll talk about resale later and the journey that we're going to take through. So here we are. Brand new, completely sealed M1 Mac Mini. We'll take a closer look at it in a minute. So in terms of configuration, I went for the baseline 256 gig model. Storage locally doesn't really make much of a difference to me. I currently run with 256 gig in my MacBook. It's not even half full. I store everything on my servers and I use cloud services as well for the smaller documents and whatnot. So hardly anything locally on the machine, just applications, whatever's in the downloads folder at the time, kind of whatever I'm working on at the time. But even video projects and stuff I do externally. So internal storage doesn't make a lot of difference to me. So I kept it at the baseline 256 gig. But what I did do, I bumped it up to 16 gigs of RAM. Now, even the 8 gig models are performing really well. And I've only got 8 gigs in my MacBook. And I never feel like I necessarily want more RAM. When I look at it, you know, extremely realistically, when I built the Hackintosh, I put 32 gigs of RAM in it. So RAM was never a concern. With the MacBook, sometimes I think, yeah, maybe. But 8 gigs, I still rock pretty well on 8 gigs. But I want this system to be able to demonstrate to me the full potential. I don't want the RAM to hold me back. Obviously, it's a little bit pricey to go from 8 to 16, but I had to do it really, especially because I don't know what the future is going to hold for my kind of roadmap of main machines. So will I end up keeping the Mac Mini for a good few years, or will I end up swapping to another machine that comes out a little bit later on in the transition period? I really don't know, because this is the very early kind of infancy of Apple Silicon desktops. The only way is up from here, and this is already pretty good, but at some point this will be kind of the worst you can get, you know? So I went for 16 just because I don't know what's going on in the future for me, and I just don't want RAM to be the thing to hold me back. So 16 gigs, 256 gigs of storage, and obviously there's no other options, it's just storage and RAM that you get for the configuration. So I think it's about time we swapped camera angles and unboxed this guy. Let's do it, the first ever unboxing of my very own brand new Mac. Not Apple refurbished, it's not somebody else's brand new Mac, it's my first ever brand new Mac. And it just so happens to be an Apple Silicon Mac. It only took me 13 years of using Macs to finally buy one brand new from the Apple website. So first of all, we've got the little adapter that I ordered. This is USB-C or Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 2. Now, I've got a Thunderbolt dock, as you guys know, and that's the primary reason why I've ordered this adapter, because I'm going to continue using the Thunderbolt dock. It's a really good way for me to get extra USB ports and a DisplayPort connector all out of this machine without spending any money on a new dock. Now, obviously, the Thunderbolt 3 ports are quite a bit more capable, so if I was to buy a Thunderbolt 3 dock, I could get more throughput and whatnot, but the thing is, Thunderbolt 2, 20 gigabits per second, I'm not even going to be scratching the surface of that, so this will be absolutely fine. I'm going to continue using the dock that I've been using with my MacBook Pro, and it's going to have even less stuff running off it, because talking displays, we are going to be running one display from the dock and one display from HDMI, because I'm 99% sure that with my setup I will not get two DisplayPort outputs from that dock. And that is one of the things that I spoke about the most on Twitter on the run up to ordering this guy, was the display support compatibility. How many displays could you run from what port? It was kind of unclear on the Apple website for a little bit, but since then people have done some testing, and we know that pretty much outside of any kind of additional adapters such as DisplayLink, we can only get one display running out of the HDMI port and one display running out of the USB-C ports via something like a USB-C to DisplayPort converter or just a USB-C display. But that's not going to stop me from trying. We'll plug it into my dock with my two displays connected to the dock and see what happens. Probably it'll just power one of them. So that's an example of something right there, first generation product, something that will obviously be improved in the future. We'll talk more about I/O later, but first, let's dig in. So we're going to savor this moment. For me, this is a huge, huge deal. Okay, so let's remove this square from the bottom and we should be able to slip the top lid off while it's still got the cellophane on. So maximum. Man, that was nice. I was gonna say maximum resale value. There we go. That was so satisfying. Okay, next up is the machine itself. Look at the box hugging the machine. You couldn't make the box any smaller. Let's have a look. Pull the tab. Okay. And let's slide her out. There it is. Brand new Mac Mini. Is that my fingerprint on it already? Oh my gosh. Okay, there it is. Let's look at that in a minute. And underneath, designed by Apple in California, in here, we get some documentation and one rather large silverish Apple sticker. Very nice. We'll leave that in there. We'll leave everything in there. Don't need any of that. And of course the power cable. We'll take the power cable out. Nice environmentally friendly packaging here on the cable. None of that plastic rubbish around the prongs. And one thing to mention is the use of black power cables now. Apple have been kind of gradually stepping away from white everything, which is interesting. The white power cables definitely were special, but this is the exact same cable, just black. Still really nice feel, really nice quality. There we go. We're gonna keep that. Not sure how easy it's gonna be to wrap the cable back up in that if I ever need to. That is quite the design, isn't it? Look at that. The engineering that went into that thing. But there's a whole department just dedicated to that. How they're gonna wrap the power cables. So one more thing we've got to do is peel the back off. Little tab on the side. Lovely, 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 lovely. And we can now put the box to one side. So just two things that we need, the power cable and the Mini itself. So this is the Mini that we all know and love in terms of design. This is now a 10-year-old design, but it still looks just as good. Interestingly, they've gone back to the silverish colour rather than the space grey. And my little theory on this, and I'm not sure if this is going to be what's actually going to happen, if this is going to come true, but my theory is they're going to release a higher end Mac Mini. Whether they refresh this low end or not before they do that, who knows, but they're going to release a higher end Mac Mini with more I/O capability. It'll feature the faster chip, whatever that'll be, M1X or whatever, and it'll be space grey in colour. So the lower end machine might be silver, higher end machine might be space grey. A little bit like what we've seen with the iMac and the iMac Pro. Or they may just in the future offer space grey or silver as a colour choice when you order any Mac Mini, like they do with the notebooks. And I'm thinking the reason that they're holding off on that at the moment is because they're still sending the Intel Mac Minis out. They're still selling the Intel Mac Mini. It's an easy and quick way to differentiate between the two. So I'm excited to see space grey Mac Minis, Apple Silicon Mac Minis, because if I did have the option, I would enjoy purchasing a space grey one, just because it's a bit of a change. But the silver looks gorgeous, and I've never had a Mac Mini as my main machine on my main setup. So looking at the ports on the back of the machine, this is where a lot of the discussion comes in. This is probably the most limited amount of I/O that we've seen on a Mac Mini for a long time, but let's talk about that in a bit more detail. So first of all, quite simple, we've still got our lovely built-in power supply, standard figure of 8 cable with the power button. Of course, the main difference of this machine being the fact that it sucks way less juice, like way less. So that is lovely. Same nice internal power supply, no dangly power bricks, something that's been fabulous on the Mac Mini now since the 2010 version. Gigabit Ethernet, this is a talking point. With the 2018 Mini, they introduced the BTO option for 10 gigabit Ethernet. We will have to see that in the future. It's completely necessary. If you want to get 10 gigabit Ethernet out of this machine right now, you have to use a USB-C to 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter. That's the only way you can do it. This guy is gigabit only. There are of course strong rumours and lots of good evidence to suggest that Apple are going to release a 10 gigabit version of this really soon. Whether that will be in a refresh to this model or whether it'll be in a higher end model that's going to be introduced, that's kind of unclear at the moment. But unfortunately at the moment you've just got gigabit Ethernet. Down here we have our cooling vent for the internal fan. This guy is fan cooled, unlike the MacBook Air. There is a fan in here, but apparently it's really silent. I can't wait to check that out. Over here we've got our audio jack and two normal USB-A ports, USB 3 A ports. Nice to see these. Obviously, going from the notebooks to the Mac Mini, it's kind of nice just for your stuff you need to throw in normal USB ports, you know, so if you've got a wired keyboard or mouse or whatever, you've got this as an option. You don't quite need as many dongles and adapters and docks and dangly pieces to get a little bit more I/O. So currently, even though this is the weakest Mac Mini I/O in quite a while, it's the strongest I/O for any Apple Silicon Mac, because if you go to either of the notebooks, you simply get the two USB-C ports and that is it. Obviously no HDMI, no Ethernet, so definitely the best I/O out of all of them here. Desktop I/O in comparison to those notebooks, which is nice. And then over here we've got HDMI port, HDMI 2.0, whatever the latest and greatest HDMI standard is, capable of everything that I'm going to put on the screen right now because I don't have it memorized. And then we've got two USB-C, physically USB-C ports. Calling them USB 4 ports, that's going to take a while to get used to, because now the Thunderbolt technology is kind of out there in the wild. We're no longer using the Intel terminology, which would be a little odd. Thunderbolt was definitely kind of like a question mark thing for a while if Apple were to ditch Intel. What's going to happen about Thunderbolt? Because they rely on Thunderbolt so heavily. But that is the answer. We are now going to refer to these as USB 4, which still carry the Thunderbolt 3 technology. So 40 gigabit per second Thunderbolt 3. Thunderbolt 4 does exist. There are some differences between 3 and 4, not in terms of raw speed though, or raw bandwidth I should say. Thunderbolt 4, as far as I know, is still a 40 gigabit per second connection. So you've got two of them on this guy in the form of USB-Cs, and that's why I got the adapter. So this will adapt USB-C on the back of the machine down to the old style Thunderbolt connector for Thunderbolt 2, which is basically just a mini display connector, as we all know. So I'll be able to plug in my kind of old school at this point Thunderbolt 2 dock. But that still leaves me with one available USB-C port, which is quite nice. So that's it for physical I/O on the machine, but wirelessly it's packing quite a punch with Bluetooth 5.0 and the blazing fast 802.11ax Wi-Fi 6 technology. So this guy is blazing on the wireless network as well. First Mac Mini to have wireless of that speed. Now with this thing being a Mac Mini, there's not a lot else to say or look at. It is just a lovely slab of aluminium with a gorgeous Apple logo on the top, and it'll sit there on the desk looking pretty. It's about time to plug it in, I think, and integrate it into my setup. So let's pull up the camera and see how we're going to set this thing up, because I'm still a little bit unsure of what we're going to do to begin with here. So here's my main setup as it stands in late 2020, and this is a laptop-based setup. So I hook my late 2013 Retina MacBook Pro 15-inch up to this setup via a Thunderbolt cable. Everything runs through a Thunderbolt dock, and that's what I've been doing since I sold my Hackintosh. It's been absolutely fine. The machine is very capable. I still absolutely love it. It's the best Mac I've ever bought, but it does struggle a little bit now with all of this connected and obviously a bit of a heavy workload. It's a 7-year-old machine. It does really, really well. So it's our job today to nestle the M1 Mac Mini into this setup, and it's going to be pretty simple, I think, because we've only got to connect it to my two monitors. They're both Dell U2412Ms. That's a 1920 by 1200 resolution monitor, so definitely no problem there at all. It's just going to be ticking along, doing a whole lot of nothing. It's going to be like, yeah, I can run 6K displays, but you know, you've only got a couple of puny little 1920 by 1200 displays. Don't worry about it, man, it's all good. We're also going to be connecting to a gigabit Ethernet network, which is currently connected to my dock, but obviously I'll be able to connect directly on board to the Mac Mini, which is really nice. Keyboard, mouse, audio interface, external SSD, webcam, USB hub on the monitors. That is about it. So not a lot of stuff to connect. I'm not going to have any bandwidth issues, and this guy will come into play to connect the dock. I think it's about time we did it. I think we should remodel. Okay, here we go. First boot of the Mac Mini in 3, 2, 1, go. Woohoo! The new boot sound. Lovely. Sounded pretty awful on those internal speakers, but that's absolutely fine. Internal speaker, I should say. Not speakers. There we go. That's the display that it's chosen. Okay, lovely. Just nipped downstairs, really good timing. Amazon were at the door, and I've got a new card reader. Got one of these little USB SD card readers. I've got one of these somewhere, but I can't find it. I've been looking for it for days. but obviously no SD card reader on this guy, and that's the main way I get my footage in off the camera, so I needed one of these pretty sharpish. My thinking was, you know, this sort of thing out the front of the dock, although, oh no, look at that, it's the wrong orientation. How annoying is that, guys? The SD slot is at the bottom because of the orientation of these USB ports. What a fail. Anyway, that's no biggie at all. Okay, we'll think of a better solution for that. Let's go. English is our main language. British keyboard, UK, everything looking good. I don't want to turn on voiceover, but I want to turn on zoom. Yes, please. Oh, brilliant how you can turn that on in the setup now. That is fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's great. Cursor size, we can up the cursor size if we want to. Oh wow, look at that, guys. We'll stick with the normal one because in conjunction with zoom it's absolutely fine. Reduced transparency. Huge fan of all of these accessibility features now. Increased contrast. Wow, lovely. Appearance, light, dark, auto. We're going to stick with dark for the simple reason that it's so much easier on the eyes. That's really cool. They've got a reduced motion option now. That is very cool. I really like the way that you can go through accessibility on the setup now, because that's always been annoying with this. You know, I'd want the zoom on for setup, so that's fantastic. Brilliant stuff. Okay, let's sign into my Apple ID. Get you guys a bit of a closer up view because it's on the other display, which is kind of miles away in the view of the camera. It's interesting how you can't select your Memoji at this stage for your account picture, because that would be quite cool. But we'll just leave it as the eggs for now then. So we're setting up the account. I did this just recently with my new Mac Mini server, as you guys know. It's interesting to see between Catalina and Big Sur just how much has changed in the installer. For those of you who don't know, I have been running Big Sur on my MacBook Pro. It's been great. I really quite like the OS. So far I've been enjoying Big Sur. I've noticed a bit of slowdown on the 2013 MacBook Pro, obviously right on the cusp there. There we go, setting up your Mac. Hey, look at that, guys, look at that. So before we do anything at all on this Mac, let's get the other display up and running. I know we're right in the middle of an M1 Mac Mini video, but I said I enjoyed capturing history. Look at that, my window's leaking. There's a drip running right down there. It just landed on the side of my cheek while I was just about to start recording the clip about the HDMI. Oh man. Just please don't land on my new Mac Mini. How annoying is that? Okay, water leaks aside, the way we're going to do this is with an Apple HDMI to DVI adapter. I do have a HDMI to DVI cable, but it is the chunkiest thing in the world. And this DVI cable is a little bit thinner and easier to handle, so we'll go for this. Let's figure out which DisplayPort cable we're currently using. DisplayPort connector. Oh, okay, so it's that one. Okay, here we go. There we have it. Nice. Dual displays running off the new Mac Mini. So the next step for me is to check first and foremost that we got what we paid for. And yes, here we are. Mac Mini M1 2020, running macOS Big Sur, version 11.0.1, chip Apple M1, memory 16GB, startup disk Macintosh HD. So there we have it. Exactly what we paid for there. Detects both of my displays at their appropriate resolution. And here's our storage. So just over 30 gigs is used out of the factory. So a lot of that is probably like GarageBand loops and stuff that's on the machine already. Oh, and it's syncing my iCloud data. Okay, yeah, of course it is. That makes sense. So we've got a couple of settings tweaked. This is now how I like the machine. I want to show you guys one thing that I change in Big Sur straight away, because I don't like the way that the Finder comes by default with the toolbar here. I like to have the search box nice and big the way it was before. I don't like the little collapsed search box. So I don't use any of these buttons here. I much prefer it when we go into Customize Toolbar, which I'm really glad is a feature they've kept. I just like to ditch these completely. ditch that space, and then that's exactly how I like it. So we've got the drop down for ordering, which I sometimes use, but usually just use the menu bar, the layout buttons, and a full-size search box. It's a lot simpler toolbar on the Finder. I don't need all that extra stuff that you can do in the right-click menu and you can do with keyboard shortcuts. So that's something that I changed right away. I think the Finder looks really quite cluttered the way the toolbar comes default now in Big Sur. So double checking everything that we've got connected. We want to turn off Wi-Fi, because it's got my Wi-Fi password from my iCloud account probably. So we want to turn off Wi-Fi so we can test the wired network connection. It's found Hyperspace, which is my little external SSD. That's fantastic because it's connected directly to the Mac Mini. We want to test something in the Thunderbolt dock. So obviously keyboard and mouse is working just fine. The webcam is working as we saw, so all that's fine. We just need to change the audio because we've got the audio interface on the output. And as you guys can see, Scarlett 2i2 is right there. So what I'm going to do is make the machine a little bit more my own, get it set up just how I want to get it set up, and then we'll start having a play and a fiddle around with it, see what it can do. So far, obviously, you know, just what I was expecting. It feels really fluid, really smooth, really solid. So I've just gone to install Deezer, and it's asking me to install Rosetta. So it'll ask you the first time, then you install it, and then that's it, I believe, for Rosetta. So it doesn't come on the system by default. You install and then download. So let's see if it is as simple as that. It should just open the application now running under Rosetta. There it is, running. Awesome. So I've been using the Mac Mini for a few hours now, just sort of setting up the system. And I've actually started cutting together a video that you guys have already seen, but you know, the timeline, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. I'm cutting together the 2012 Mac Mini video here in Final Cut, and it is obviously like butter, like absolute butter. This is 1080p footage. I mean, normally I would describe this like the computer is just chewing right through it with no problems. It's not even chewing. There's no chewing happening. It is sipping. Like, it's just sort of, it's like you open your gob and you're just pouring the soup straight down your throat. That's exactly what this is running like. It's not breaking a sweat. Obviously, I can't hear it. I don't think the fan is running at all, and it might be running at a really slow speed, but it's silent. I can put my ear right up to the back of it and all I can hear is my server rack. I can't stress it out with 1080p footage. It's just not going to happen. So Final Cut is one thing. I mean, I won't be able to give a really good sort of review of Final Cut until I start boggling with some 4K footage, which will be a little bit later on. So that's just my initial 1080p reaction. It can do anything, and that's just with the basic cut together as well. But I've been putting some blurs and stuff on like I normally would, and it doesn't break a sweat. Rendering, I am not even noticing it render, whereas with my MacBook Pro, even though background rendering is enabled, it would be a case of it starts rendering, I sit back, I don't press anything, because otherwise it's everything you do is really laggy at that point. Not a problem with this, obviously. I wasn't expecting it to be a problem, but it's just so nice to use it, feeling like it's not a problem. The overall interface, the UI, everything is buttery, once again. So something that I haven't really been treated to within Big Sur with my MacBook Pro. Catalina ran pretty much fine. A little bit of stuttering here and there. Big Sur, again, another little downgrade to how well it ran, but the animations and stuff, the fluidity of the desktop and the entire operating system is just incredible with this Mac Mini. So one place I really notice it is swapping spaces between my different work spaces here. It is unbelievably smooth, really smooth. Even on these just standard 60Hz monitors, it looks really nice. I'm not going to do benchmarks and stuff quite yet. That's not where we're at. But one thing I want to do is run a Blackmagic disk speed test just for a bit of fun. And my camera battery is going to die any minute by the looks of it. So I want to run one of these. I'm going to put it on that monitor because you can see it a little better, I do believe. The disk speed is insanely quick on this machine. So let's get it in numbers. Oh man. Man. It reads at almost 3 gigabytes per second, and it's writing at 2.3 gigabytes per second. Every single one of these formats is ticked. It's insane. To show you the difference, I'm going to select my little USB SATA drive. You know, this is sort of typical SSD speeds of a little SATA drive, nearly 400 megabytes a second. Obviously that's no slouch. My God. The internal is just unreal. Unreal. Cracks me up how they're still referring to it as Macintosh HD. There is nothing even close to this. A hard drive far from it. Man. So it's my second day with the Mac Mini. I've been editing this video for the last 3 hours or so today and a little bit yesterday. This is the Mac Mini mid-2012 server video, but yesterday I also shot out the Game & Watch video, which was about 14 minutes long. This one is just 30 seconds or so under an hour, so it's a much longer video, but still, to the touch, this thing is stone cold. It's not breaking a sweat, it's practically asleep. So I'm interested to see how quickly it's going to export this. I'm not going to time it and show it to you guys on camera because with no basis for comparison, it doesn't really mean a lot to just look at an export time. So what we'll do later on in the video, we'll put my MacBook Pro head to head with the M1 Mac Mini in terms of exporting, seeing what's quicker. Now, a quick point on Final Cut exports. I export to H.264. And I do this because the quality is absolutely fine for the things I do, and it's a really good space-saving file format. I've used H.264 as my export format for as long as I can remember now. Now that process is accelerated greatly on the majority of Intel Macs because of QuickSync. And QuickSync really speeds up that process, so exporting on my MacBook Pro has always been blazing fast. It still impresses me to this day. Now what I really wanted to see is the M1 Mac Mini quicker than my MacBook Pro with Intel QuickSync, because it's kind of fascinating. You can put the MacBook Pro up to an iMac Pro or even a Mac Pro, and because they're Xeon based machines, often the lower spec machine with the consumer chip equipped with Intel QuickSync can beat those higher end machines thanks to QuickSync. So I'm intrigued to see about that later. I think the Mac Mini will still be quicker, which is really cool. So I'm just going to export this right now, and we'll keep a little eye on the progress bar. So the estimated file size on this for H.264 is going to be 10.9 gigs. Let's just double check. As you can see, we're exporting 1920 by 1080 H.264. The other thing is I export directly to Scaro as well. So export it into my December file on the NAS, and let's have a little look. So it's just chewing away at it there, 1% and 2%. This is nearly an hour long video, so this will definitely be interesting to see. 3%. Okay, yeah, it's doing it. It's doing it. Right then, so I will do some more scientific testing. This isn't testing, this is just me sort of purely fascinated by this at the moment. But today, just like yesterday, rock solid, purring away, just purring. Not even purring, it's not making any noise whatsoever. We're already at 6% and I've just been sat here talking rubbish. No, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. This isn't taxing for it, it's not going to spin up. It's just not. I won't be able to make it spin up by simply exporting some 1080p project. It's not going to happen, hour long or not. It needs to be something a lot more demanding. So I think we'll fiddle with some 4K in this video, definitely. So I picked up one of these desk shelves, one of these aluminium kind of iMac stand things. I'm not using it for its intended purpose really. They're more for sort of getting a little bit more elevation on an iMac or a cinema display or something of this kind of design. But I picked one up anyway because I needed an extra kind of layer on the desk. I had the Mac Mini here and I had the Thunderbolt dock just sitting here with the cables coming all the way forward, as you guys saw, and it was just all getting really cluttered and it was a big mess. So this is a temporary measure. It's allowed me to squeeze the Thunderbolt dock underneath, and I now have the Mac Mini here, this here, and everything is completely out of the way, so that's worked out well. Now it looks a little odd with this monitor stand kind of up here and this one still sitting on the desk. This is completely temporary, guys. completely. I'm gonna fully overhaul the desk setup, gonna make it look a lot prettier. I've got some new stuff coming really soon for the desk, and it's gonna be a million times nicer. So this looks a bit weird right now, I know, but it's purely for functional kind of purposes at the moment. But to start that off, I do actually have 2 new items for the desk today to show you. So we're going to deviate ever so slightly from the main kind of M1 content here. There's a timestamp on the screen right now if you guys want to skip straight back to the Mac Mini stuff. We're going to deviate and talk about a keyboard and mouse for just a second. I told you this was going to be a long one, so feel free to stick around if you want to kind of watch the evolutionary process of my desk setup here, which is going to gradually improve over time. Starting today, starting with the M1 Mac Mini a couple of days ago, which is just the biggest upgrade I could have possibly done. But today we're going to unbox and set up a new keyboard and mouse. It's been a long time since I last upgraded my keyboard and mouse. So talking about my keyboard for a second, I currently use the Corsair K65. It's a wonderful bit of kit. It's got loads of life left in it, but I need a number pad. I really need a number pad back. I am so much quicker at data entry with a number pad as opposed to the numbers above the letter keys. I want that number pad. So we're gonna get a big full-size keyboard back on the setup, and it's gonna be really quite nice. The K65 is gonna move over to my test bench setup, and there I'll be able to have that nice compact keyboard, still get a nice mechanical feel over there as well. It'll be an ideal keyboard for that side of the room. Now my mouse, legendary. I've got the MX518. I've used it for about 10 years or so, as you guys know. Absolute killer mouse. And Logitech have recently re-released it actually. I haven't bought it again. I've gone a little bit lower end this time. Don't really need the new MX518. It's such a nice mouse, but I've put loads of wear on mine. The scroll wheel is now pretty nasty, and the coating along the sides has gone all sticky and is peeling away, and the texture is coming off. But the mouse itself still works kind of perfectly. The tracking on it is absolutely amazing. Nothing wrong with the buttons either. Just a bit of scroll wheel trouble every now and again, which is no real big deal. But we're going to be moving the MX518 over to my test bench setup as well for my primary mouse over there. So what do we have to replace them? I've gone Logitech again. For the mouse, we've got the G203. Like I say, a little bit cheaper, a little bit lower end, but I'm not a gamer. I don't need a really good gaming mouse, even though this is a gaming mouse. Went with the G203, just like the look of it, like the design. Reviews are good. We'll give it a go. It does have some RGB lighting. I'm hoping to be able to set that to a static white in order to match the keyboard. And speaking of keyboard, we've gone for the Logitech G413 Silver Edition. And the reason I picked this guy up, it kind of matches the Mac setup. It was the best I could really go for in terms of aesthetics. I didn't want to go for one of those kind of all white RGB gamery keyboards. They look a little bit cheap and nasty to me, whereas this guy with the silver look and the black keys, it looks a little bit more reserved, a little bit more quality. I kind of like that. I don't like it to be over the top. I don't really like over the top peripherals and stuff like that. As I kind of said in my gaming chair review, I'm not really one for the all flashy look, but I do like it to look like a nice clean setup. So this guy does actually have backlit keys as well. It's got solid white backlit keys, which is ideal because I wouldn't really want to change it to any other color anyway. So let's just dig right in and check out the mouse. Got a little handy dandy knife back here. Kind of hoping that the size is similar to my MX518. It's the ideal size, and I'm hoping that it has a nice smooth scroll wheel, because that is one thing I've definitely been craving for a good while now. The 518 has been perfect, but definitely on its last legs for the last year or so. But as I say, it'll serve me brilliantly on the test setup. When I say last legs, I mean last legs as a main mouse. Okay, so here is the, forgotten the model number already, G203. So it's a white mouse. I kind of went for a white one just for that Apple-y look and a bit of a change as well. I've got a black mouse mat, so I thought it would be a nice bit of contrast from the mouse mat. It's lighter weight than my MX518. We'll compare them side by side in a minute. It's a little bit smaller as well, but yeah, it feels really nice in the hand. We'll get a close-up look at that in a minute. We'll swap over to the new keyboard and mouse. Let's open the keyboard. I will get you guys a better view, I promise. First thing I noticed when this box was delivered is just how heavy it is. And like I say, the K65 is a solid keyboard, love it to pieces. If it was the full length version, I'd definitely be using it still. Okay, so here is the new keyboard sitting in the box. So we've got replacement keys for, we've got a keycap puller first of all on the end, and then we've got all of the primary kind of gaming keys, WASD, Q, E, R, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Replacement keys for all of those. They actually feel like they've got much more of a kind of indent on them, so probably specifically for the gamers that want to feel those keys a little bit more. Cool thing is how compact this guy is. I read on reviews that it was compact. That's another thing that kind of led me to wanting this one. Do you know, it was surprisingly difficult actually to find a mechanical keyboard on the market that was not completely black, didn't have crazy over the top styling and crazy RGB lighting all over the place. It was very, very difficult. I mean, I know that is what's in at the moment, but sometimes you want a mechanical keyboard that's a little bit more subtle as well. And I think I found one. I was really pleased to have found this. So let's pull it out of the packet. Nice, nice weight. So here it is. And yeah, it's got that lovely kind of brushed aluminium look to the keyboard. As you guys can see, the keys are really raised above the keyboard. The design is really nice. The case doesn't hug the keys at all. The keys are just like on the top. The only kind of logo we've got is the quite subtle Logitech G series logo on the corner there, which is really nice. No numlock LED by the looks of it, which is odd, but that's completely fine. No flex at all to the keyboard, no flex whatsoever. The bottom is plastic. We've got a little, what's going on here? 2 little feet on the keyboard. Very nice, very nice. Nice big chunky rubber feet on the bottom, stop it sliding around. Here's the cable, really thick braided cable, 2 USB ports, one for the keyboard itself, the other for the pass-through USB port on the back. So it's got a USB port there, and pretty much this is just like a giant USB extension cable. The second one for that USB port is a direct pass-through. There's no way of telling which plug is which, however. Normally one is a different color or it's labeled or whatever on these sorts of keyboards with the pass-through. This one you can't tell, so you only need to plug one end to use the keyboard, the other's for the pass-through. And the other really cool thing about this is, look, there is actually a little gap in the plastic here on the bottom, like a little channel for the cable. So if you're using a USB headset or something like that, you can plug in the USB at the back and you can get the cable looped through and underneath, so the cable's not draping across the top of your keyboard. One thing I forgot to mention is the switches, quite an important part. This uses the Roma G tactile switches, as you guys can see. Also, you can see I got the UK version, which is something to look out for. I was looking at some keyboards, some sort of lesser well-known brand keyboards on Amazon and stuff like that, just looking around, and it's surprising the amount of keyboards that you can't get in a UK layout. But obviously any keyboards like this from a well-known big manufacturer, you can get it from with a UK layout without a problem. Now these switches are quite a bit different to my Cherry MX Red switches that I'm used to on my main keyboard. So here's the new G413 and the old K65, Corsair, Logitech. Very nice. One thing I really like is this portion at the top. We don't have a portion like that on the new keyboard, so the F keys are right at the top of the board. We don't have any media keys or anything like that. Don't use any of these anyway, they tend not to work with the Mac. And the biggest thing is we have our numpad on the side. That is what I wanted. The whole design is a little bit more kind of squished in. The keys feel a bit smaller on top, the actual keycaps themselves. The plastic is also very, very, very soft. It's quite an interesting texture to the keys. In terms of switches, let's just have a little listen. So, that's the Roma G, and then the Cherry MX Red. Definitely more of a subtle, kind of more muted tone to the Logitech. Keys also feel a bit softer, but there is a little bump there. There's kind of like that tactile kind of bump. Whereas the travel on the MX Red is very uniform. There's that little bump there. Quite nice. Yeah, we'll do a typing test later on, I think. So a quick look at the mice. You couldn't really get much further apart in terms of design. They both look really nice in different ways, I think. The MX518 is a classic design, but it does have a sort of old school look here with this curvature to the top of the case. But a very nice design, timeless, definitely. Good bit of wear and tear on this guy from me. Obviously, big style wear and tear on the side where your thumb rests. Case coating is coming away here. Scratches on the side, very sticky to the touch, all this as well. Wear on the side there. Bottom is holding up really well. Like I say, scroll wheel is a bit kind of stiff and a bit... It's never been the nicest scroll wheel on the MX518 in my opinion anyway, always a bit loud, a bit clunky, but it's a little bit stiffer than it was when it was new now thanks to the wear and tear. But still loads of life left in this guy for my test setup, like I say. New mouse feels a little lighter, a little bit easier to click, more travel on the click. Scroll wheel is quieter. Yeah, that's nice. Sounds a lot more pleasant, but you can feel, overall, you can feel that this is a lower end mouse. It's also a little bit smaller as well. I obviously wasn't expecting a huge amount from a mouse that on a Black Friday sale you can get for under 20 quid. So, yeah, nice. Okay, let's swap them over, put the new keyboard and mouse in, see how they look with the LEDs and stuff. Hey, I almost forgot that we are replacing the mouse mat today. I'm going to replace it with the exact same mouse mat. Reason being is because, oh look at that, all that cardboard kind of dust that falls out the box with it. Reason that we're changing this is because I have another one over there on my workbench setup, and that one I've managed to actually burn in the middle, so I needed a new one for that setup. So I've moved the one over from here onto that setup, and this one, ooh, they've changed the design slightly. They've put a new little surround on it, which is quite nice. This one is here, nice and fresh, which means we'll get a fresh mouse mat and a fresh keyboard and mouse for this setup. Lovely. Yeah, I like that. It's got an extra kind of rim around the outside, which is really nice. So we'll be all fresh in the keyboard and mouse department. If you guys are interested in any of these products, by the way, check out my new Amazon storefront links in the video description. I've made it easy. I get so many questions all the time about what products I use here, there and everywhere, what cable is that, what's this, in networking videos, desk videos, pretty much any video. So what I've tried to do is put as much of my gear as possible on there so that you guys can check that out as well. And of course, if you buy through my little links on that page, I will get a little bit of kickback from those, which is always nice. As always, any of that kind of thing goes straight back into the channel. All of those links in there are now indeed affiliate links. I was at one point looking to get the Corsair K75 Special Edition, but it just wasn't sitting right with me how over the top it was. I was looking at white keyboards for the longest time, sort of craving that old Apple USB keyboard look once again, but I'm glad I've gone down this road now. Woohoo, that is fitting in really nicely, isn't it? Look at that, guys. Look how nice that is. So subtle, so clean. I love it. I'm just downloading the software, installing it actually for the mouse to sort out the RGB, because by default it just sort of does a rainbow thing, which looks really nice actually. Let me just turn off my video lights. Yeah, nice little fade of the colours coming around the mouse. Really nice. But we're going to try and get it on a static white to match the keyboard. Speaking of keyboard backlight, check that out. Lovely white, really crispy, crispy, crispy. Sort of a very tiny blue tinge to it as well. That definitely matches the setup, doesn't it? Look at that. So these switches are so different. I think it'll be great fun to just do a typing test straight away on this guy. I've typed my password and just the stuff I needed to download that application for the mouse. So this is my first use. It's going to be rusty as hell. So here we go. Wow, 107 words per minute. I was not expecting to get that kind of score on a brand new keyboard. It felt as if I wasn't doing that well, but yeah, really easy words on this website, so you know, take that score with a grain of salt. But it feels nice. The keys feel a bit smaller, like I've said. They do feel a bit smaller, but hey, looks like my productivity won't slow down anytime soon. So I've been fiddling around in this G-Hub software for the mouse, and it's really quite good. It detects my mouse, keyboard, the webcam. It's fantastic. So I've just been fiddling around with some macros, actually. Now, one thing that I found really quickly was because I swap between spaces a lot, this keyboard, I now have to move my hand over the number pad to get to the arrow keys. And I used to swap spaces by holding Command and using the arrow keys. Obviously, when I'm on my laptop, I can do it with the trackpad. But I think that was going to be a bit inconvenient with this setup now that my hand had to travel over the number pad. So I've made this spaces left macro on the side mouse button here, the top one. As you guys can see, this guy is assigned. And it just moves my space to the left, which is brilliant. So I'm going to make the spaces right one live on camera right now. So we'll create a new macro. Space, what did I call the other one? Space left, so I'll call this one space right. And it was a no repeat. So we click start now, record, Command, right, move right over there. Not sure if this makes a difference, but it possibly does. Stop, save, and now we can assign space right to that mouse button. So left, right, right on the mouse. So what I'm doing here, right, left, really convenient, much easier than moving my hand off the mouse. Also set my middle mouse button to F12 so that I can access mission control by tapping the middle button on the scroll wheel, which is really convenient. So that's all the mapping I'm going to do there. So looking at the colours, you can really easy customize all the colours. You can make solid colours, effects, blah blah blah, pretty much everything. I've got mine on a completely solid white, which is now matching the keyboard. So lastly, on the keyboard and mouse, just a comparison of the LEDs side by side here. Even though these are RGB LEDs combining to create white, it's still quite an icy white, matches the keyboard nicely, and there is that blue tinge to the white keys of the keyboard. So it matches really well. You do get brightness control, function and brightness, as well as the G button here, which turns on the light. I believe probably disables the Windows key. But yes, I'm not going to be doing much gaming up here at all, but here we have it, clean as. Right, let's move on. So everything that you've just watched was recorded in November and December, right at the beginning of December. It is now the 2nd of Feb. So unintentionally, I've left a 2-month gap in the middle of this video. So I've edited up to this point, and what I've decided to do is cut the video here. I'm going to give you guys 5-10 minutes of my kind of thoughts and feelings about the machine at the end of the video here, and a couple of things that I've discovered over the last 2 months. But this is the new plan. I've got a big video project coming up on the channel, a big multi-part series, and it'll be the first thing that I'll be able to use to really try and tax this system. Big video editing job. I'm going to get that done on the system, get those videos out on the channel, and then we're going to come back in a month's time or 6 weeks time or however long that project takes me, and we're going to do like a kind of spiritual part 2 to this video where we look at the video editing performance. I show you guys my workflow on the MacBook Pro versus the M1 Mac Mini. How much quicker is it in terms of numbers? We're going to do some speed tests. We're going to do some races between the two machines, and I'll do a little bit of benchmarking and stuff as well. So all of the technical and scientific stuff is to come in that part. So I do apologise that we've got nothing kind of very concrete in this video, but I'm going to finish off with a couple of thoughts about the machine and things that I've noticed, like I said. When we discussed the transition to Apple Silicon in that initial video that I did responding to the keynote, we spoke a lot about how PowerPC and Intel machines back in the day, how they felt different. So when you jumped on the Intel machine, you know, they were both running Tiger, the PowerPC and the Intel machine, you could tell the difference between the two. It's just subtle things here and there, but it's a completely different architecture, so you're bound to notice a difference in the way that the machine generally behaves. And we're not talking about black and white differences, you know, this is like reading between the lines differences, stuff that you just feel as you use the machine day to day. The operation of a new Intel Mac and the M1 Macs are exactly the same, obviously. The OS is identical, everything is identical. There is nothing different outside of the obvious feature differences. But the general way that the system feels is different. And one of the easiest ways for me to demo that to you guys is by talking a little bit about the I/O. Now, I want you guys to bear in mind that I am running a Thunderbolt dock with the M1 Mac Mini. Now, the beauty of Thunderbolt has always been that it's so quick. When you connect a dock and you connect all of your devices up to the dock, you never feel like you're using a hub. Sometimes, you know, when you use a USB hub, you start to notice the hub. If you've got too much stuff plugged into it and you're doing a lot of transfers, the speed and the limitations of the hub start to obviously impact what you can do with the devices connected to the hub. Thunderbolt has never really been like that for me, and probably lots of people, because there is so much bandwidth. You can't even begin to kind of use it all. So for me, with just a few USB devices connected to the Thunderbolt dock and one display, it's not even 4K or anything like that, it's just a 1920 by 1200 display. It's barely scratching the surface of the 20 gigabit per second Thunderbolt 2 interface that it's connected to the Mac via through the adapter. Obviously, if you've got a USB-C dock, then you're getting double that bandwidth as well. But what's crazy about this Mac is I've noticed that you can definitely feel like this stuff is external. Definitely. When I connect the Thunderbolt dock to my MacBook Pro, it feels like part of the system. It feels like you're connecting the Ethernet, the USB devices, the displays, and bearing in mind 2 displays running off of the dock itself. It feels like you're connecting them all directly to the machine. You're just plugging them straight into the brain. You never notice any kind of difference otherwise. You wouldn't suspect that anything weird was going on. With the M1 Mac Mini, you feel like it's all external. It's crazy, and I'm going to show you guys something. And bearing in mind I am running the hub, okay, so this could be a hub thing, a dock I should say. This could be a dock thing. I will take the dock out of the equation because I'm going to say it's not really working out very well on this setup. Now, if I can get this thing fired up and show you guys what I mean. So I'll probably do a close-up of this to try and demo this to you guys as well. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm running 2 displays. So check out the difference. Your 2 displays should be as one. They always have been as one on the Mac. They've worked in harmony together. I've never noticed any difference between 2 displays when they're both running off of the same video card, or in this case the same integrated graphics. Never been any kind of issue. But see if you can spot this. I'm going to move my mouse. Nothing is happening on the machine, by the way. It's not doing anything. It's just sat here with my emails open, really. Look at this. Can you see that icon tearing? Those icons just tear. One display. One display always lags behind the other. There is always a tear in what you're doing between the 2 displays. Okay, so that's zoomed in. I'm going to use a different example. I'm going to bring up this Finder window here, and I'm going to move it up and down between the displays. And you can see a slight, this is not as obvious as the zooming in, you can see a slight difference in the response between the 2 displays. The naked eye can see that difference. Probably won't come out on 30 frame per second video, but there is a difference there. When you drag the window from one display to another, there is a difference. Now, you may have noticed something else as well, and this is truly bizarre, and I don't know why this is happening. I haven't Googled any of this stuff, so I don't know if anybody else is facing these issues, but you may have noticed it already. Now, we're in dark mode here on Mac OS. We've got a nice dark grey, almost black Finder window. Check this out. When I swap it over to the other display, it goes purple. That's not a viewing angle thing. That's purple. Swap it back over, grey, purple, grey, purple. Weird as. If I get a system preferences window, it opens here purple, grey, purple, grey. Now you might just think, okay, something weird's going on with the dock. Whatever display is connected to the dock, sometimes it turns some things purple. That's not the case. It happens on both displays. Yesterday it was this display that turned all the windows purple. But strangely enough, if you get a window that's a different colour, let's get a web browser here. Now check out Safari. Okay, that's Safari. It's the same colour on both displays. Exactly the same colour. How weird is that? Grab system preferences again and look at that. The problem's gone. The problem is gone. It comes and goes. Really bizarre. So that's the monitor side, a little bit of weirdness that I've noticed. And that doesn't kind of end there. When waking from sleep, sometimes one monitor just completely refuses to work. If I restart the machine, it finds the monitor again. And this is kind of like half the reason, let's just test it now. It doesn't do it all the time. This is half the reason why I want to take the dock out of the equation, because I want to eliminate it. I want to see if it does this with two monitors running directly off the Mac. So let's wake it up again. There we go. She's woken up from sleep. There's a bit of a delay from one monitor to another, but that's very normal anyway, very typical. But there you go, the purple problem is back. Would you look at that? The purple problem is back. Now that sort of tearing thing happening, the difference in time, almost sort of response time or input time from the two displays, that can be put down to something that is physically going on, I think, with the dock and the connection to Thunderbolt. Whether it be like that when I directly connect it, I don't know. The purple thing, I'm almost kind of leaning more towards some kind of OS bug there. I've just Googled it really quickly, and a couple of other people have had the same problem and posted screenshots with no kind of specific answer that I saw after kind of like a 90-second Google search. So that's what I've noticed there. And that the weirdness unfortunately doesn't end there with the devices connected to Thunderbolt. I've noticed USB disconnects, USB devices not responding after the machine wakes from sleep. Just weird USB device behavior. I guess maybe some conflicting going on. I really don't know. But basically, it kind of feels like there is definitely a disconnect between Thunderbolt and the system. And whether it's just my dock or not, I don't know. When I plug my dock back into my MacBook, it behaves flawlessly, so I know there's no problem with the dock itself. I'm going to take it out of the equation anyway because I don't need it, and I'd like to find out if it is that causing the problem. Happy to hear your thoughts on it. You know, I think it's definitely a very unique setup here because this is a rare dock to begin with. Thunderbolt 2 docks are now pretty rare. I don't presume many people will be connecting Thunderbolt 2 docks to their M1 Macs. I've simply done it because I had the dock and it was a really convenient way to get all of these connections that I need, but I can easily do it without the dock. There are two USB-C ports on the Mac Mini. One of them I'm not even using at the moment, so I'll be able to cobble together some other kind of dongle setup to allow me to connect absolutely everything. Just get a traditional USB 3 hub back on the setup for all the bits and pieces and see how that goes. But it may sound like I'm moaning a shed ton about the machine. I'm really not. They are pretty much the only things that I've noticed. I've noticed some Rosetta apps simply sometimes do not open. I've noticed certain little weirdish things around the OS leaning towards the kind of not opening, not responding way, or apps showing that they're open but they're nowhere to be found. But a restart fixes all of those, obviously, and restarting this thing is so quick. I'll do it on camera right now while I'm talking. Restarting, see that little dialog box is purple right there, the restart one, grey, purple, really annoying. And it doesn't happen just with two monitors, it happens if you're moving stuff from one desktop to another on a single monitor, because I disconnected a monitor completely. But this will give you an idea of how quick it is to restart this machine. It is so quick to get back up and running. Any kind of issue that you do get, it's not really a problem. So I am intrigued to kind of see how things go from here. I am loving having a desktop again, and a real desktop Mac that I can just freely update and everything is hunky-dory. Is really nice to have. Here we go, we're up and running, let's just log in, and we are back in, ready to rock on the system. So yeah, really quick. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. Plan is, cut it here, do a load more videos, test out the machine, come back to this topic a little while down the road and explain a little bit more in depth about the machine and see how it goes, see how it performs, see how it behaves. And I can update you guys then as well on these issues with the displays, update you guys on removing the dock and does that make any difference and whatnot. So the M1 Mac Mini, exciting journey is definitely continuing, definitely feeling the rush of being involved in the first generation product. I know a load of people have got these, but it's still so exciting to me. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you all in the next video.